Well, hello everyone. This is John Shada here again. I want to share a little testimony today concerning some things that happened in my life. As a born-again believer, I went through a lot of years of my life experiencing guilt, shame, condemnation, the feeling of being a victim, feeling of being ripped off, and so on. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. But in my search for a solution, answers as to why I'm experiencing this, why I'm living like this, God showed me some things I want to illustrate by using the scale that's sitting here in front of me. Scales are typically a symbol of law or justice, the law of justice, justice of the law. And a balanced scale is justice, and an imbalanced scale is an injustice. And so, as an example, I had one of many things that have happened to me in my life was I had my house broken into, some very valuable things stolen out of the house, and I came home and discovered all this, and needless to say, I was quite offended. I felt ripped off, I felt violated, I felt, all the kind of things that people feel when they get ripped off. And so, as a Christian, I knew I needed to forgive. I needed to release, whoever did this, I needed to release them from debt. I would like to see them pay me back, but if that happened, great. But in the meantime, I needed to forgive them. So I forgave them. And I always thought forgiveness was all that I needed to do. But the Lord showed me that forgiveness alone by itself is similar to Old Covenant justice of the law, where the people would bring an innocent animal and offer its blood for the forgiveness of their sins. And this forgiveness was very temporary. Their feeling of being justified probably didn't last long, but because it had to be renewed every year. And but anyway, that's just the way the Old Covenant worked, and the justice of the Old Covenant was inferior to the New. But when I analyzed what a New Covenant person is supposed to experience versus an Old Covenant person, I'm thinking, I'm living more like an Old Covenant saint than I am a new. I don't know why. I felt like, in Colossians it says that when Jesus died upon the cross, he destroyed, basically he nailed to the cross all of the handwriting of ordinances that the enemy used against us to accuse and condemn and harass us for our faults, and even to remind us of being ripped off and trying to renew the offense. The cross of Christ destroyed the animosity. It cleanses the conscience. None of that was found in the Old Covenant sacrifices of animals. That was only in the blood of Christ on the cross. So I'm thinking, well, I'm not trusting in animal blood. I'm not, I don't understand. I'm trusting in the blood of Christ. Why am I still feeling this, animosity towards being ripped off? I feel, shame for things that I committed that were wrong, and I'm feeling guilt, all these things that are still active in my life. And the Lord showed me that, like I said earlier, forgiveness alone is similar to the animal blood sacrifice. He said there was forgiveness in the cross, but there's much more than forgiveness in the cross of Christ. He said grace was in the cross of Christ. It was an added blessing. It was an undeserved added blessing of favor and kindness that was not found in the old covenant sacrifice. The old covenant saints never received favor and grace. They received forgiveness, when they offered their animal sacrifices, but they never experienced the grace and the added blessing, the undeserved kindness and all that comes with grace. And so I'm thinking, well, okay, how is it that I have somehow reduced the effectiveness of Christ's sacrifice? Because I'm feeling like I'm living like an Old Testament saint who offered his animal sacrifice, but I'm still feeling the shame and the guilt and the condemnation and the feeling of being ripped off, and all the animosity and everything that's connected with all this stuff keeps coming back to me. I ask forgiveness, I'm good for a while, but it comes back, it keeps coming back. I ask forgiveness, I'm good for a while. And basically, it's similar to this old covenant animal blood. It was a temporary thing. It was not a permanent solution. They had to repeat it every year. And it was kind of like me. I was probably repeating my forgiveness prayers for forgiveness more than maybe once every 3 months. So I'm thinking, God, how come I'm not experiencing this new covenant victory that should be in the cross? And he told me, well, it's because I haven't been applying the cross. And I said, what do you mean I haven't been applying the cross? How do I get forgiveness even if I don't? Well, he said, I haven't been applying the full value of the cross. There's forgiveness in the cross, but there's much more than forgiveness in the cross. There in the cross is grace. That's where grace is. It's in the cross. It's an undeserved blessing. It's a gift from God. It's a gift. So, a gift cannot be required. It cannot be earned. It cannot be worked for. It cannot be stolen. The only way you can get a gift is by receiving it from the one who wants to give you the gift. And so he said the way the new covenant works is you get what you give away. By the measure you use, it will be measured back to you again. So if I limit my response to being violated, to being ripped off, if I limit it to forgiveness, just forgiving the people, without adding undeserved kindness and blessing. So you say, well, what is the undeserved kindness and blessing? It says, pray for those, bless those who curse you, pray for those who persecute you, do good to those who wrong you. So I wasn't doing that. I never prayed for these people that broke into my house. I never prayed for them in any way. I never blessed them in any way. I never spoke any kind of kindness over them or anything. I just kind of did my best to just stuff it all and just say, I forgive them. I'm not going to require them to pay me back anything. I don't want to live in unforgiveness. But I didn't add the prayer and the blessing of any kind of grace to the issue. So because I hadn't been adding grace to my forgiveness, I was living by law. I was living in a legal situation here. The scale bouncing around is a picture of the law being active. So the law system, or the law, is a weapon in the hands of the enemy. He's a legalist. He uses the law to harass and condemn people for their sins. He uses the law to harass people who have been ripped off by reminding them continually, they ripped you off. That was a lot of money they took from you. That was value they took from you. Keep trying to remind you of that. The reason that he wants that is he wants you to continue living here. He wants you to renew the offense. He wants you to get angry. He wants you to take vengeance. He wants you to do all this stuff. But if we add the undeserved kindness and blessing that's not required by the law, it's in excess of the law. It adds extra weight. It does the same thing the cross does. It adds the weight that puts the scale out of commission. It disarms the enemy. He can no longer use it as a weapon to accuse us and harass us and remind us of all of our stuff, to stir up anger in us or anything like that. So that's where I had failed to apply the cross, is that I only applied a portion of the value of the cross, I'll put it that way, by forgiving people, but I didn't apply the full value of the cross by added prayer and blessing and kindness and this sort of thing. So that's how I lived for a long time until the Lord showed me this, that what I needed to do to live in the victory. And I know that I'm sure there's a lot of people that were doing what I didn't do already, but I've never heard anybody share this kind of a story before or use this kind of an illustration. And so the Lord gave me this illustration, and it may be just to help someone who is having difficulty, just like I was. I was having a hard time getting over this stuff because the enemy just kept reminding me of it, and kept bringing it up, and bringing it up. How is he getting access to this stuff? How is he having the ability to keep bringing this stuff up and throwing it in my face, to stir me up, to try to get me angry, to try to get me offended again? And it's because the active scale right here, the fact that the scale bounces around, is because I didn't apply the grace of the cross. I only applied the forgiveness of the cross. And so my point in showing this illustration is hopefully to help someone who had a similar experience to me, or is having a similar experience of what I've described, and who's neglected to add the undeserved blessing and kindness to the situation, to disarm the enemy, to shut his mouth basically, and receive full value from Christ's sacrifice. So anyway, I hope that blesses you today. I hope this helped maybe some of you understand, if you were having some of the same experiences I had with guilt, condemnation, shame, anger, feeling of being violated, that kind of stuff. This is how we get the victory, by first coming under the blood of Christ ourselves, asking Him to forgive us of all of our sins, to be washed and cleansed by His blood. We come before the cross of Christ, and we receive His sacrifice for our sins. And because of that, we receive both forgiveness and the added blessing of kindness, undeserved favor. And so once we've received this, then we need to give it away. The measure that we use toward other people is the measure that we will receive. So if we only give away forgiveness, if we just forgive people and we don't do the add the grace, we're back here in the wall, and we don't want to be there. And so, anyway, I hope this was helpful. I know this helped me tremendously. So, be blessed, and we'll talk again another time. Bye-bye.